Prime Minister, speakers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ministers, parliamentarians, Chief of the Defence Staff, members of the Canadian Forces, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honour to be here today to mark the end of Canada's mission in Libya and to pay tribute to those who have answered the call to service. As Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of Canada, I regularly have the privilege of meeting with the men and women of the Canadian Forces, and several times a year I recognize outstanding service by conferring honours, medals and decorations upon those who have truly excelled in their duties. On these occasions, I sometimes quote my predecessor, General Georges Pivanier, who once said, "The overpowering strength of a free people is the readiness voluntarily to defend not merely themselves, not only their allies, but the very democratic principles they cherish." Les membres des forces canadiennes qui ont été envoyés en Libye ont accompli leur tâche pour défendre les principes démocratiques qui nous sont si chers. Vous avez été solidaires du peuple libyen qui a bénéficié de la sécurité que vous lui avez offerte dans sa quête pour l'autodétermination et de l'appui que vous lui avez
your determination and support that you had provided in order to ensure that they could obtain the rights and the freedoms, the most basic rights and freedoms. Thanks to your actions, the Libyans were able to overcome injustice after many years of violence and suppression. As Commander-in-Chief, I often talk about to the Canadian Forces about their responsibilities and to talk about them as a model of behavior abroad and at home. I recall that their sense of duty, honor, and service to the country reinforce the values that we hold dear and reflect that which Canada has to offer at best.
You served with distinction at all levels, bringing great credit to the Canadian Forces and to Canada. Today, the people of Libya face a new challenge in rebuilding their country. For an image of the devastation wrought by war, we can look to the painting by Sir George Clauzin that hangs here in the Senate. Painted in 1919, it is called Returning to the Reconquered Land, and it depicts the return of ordinary people to a shattered Europe after the First World War. Shattered, but free to build a brighter future. Thanks to your efforts in concert with the international community, Libyans can begin to imagine a future free of fear and suffering. On behalf of all Canadians, I thank you for your service in this mission. Together, you embody our commitment to international law, to the rights and freedoms we cherish in a democratic society, and to the personal values of duty, honor, and service. Merci.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Merci, Votre Excellence. J'invite maintenant le Premier ministre, le très honorable Stephen Harper, à prendre la parole. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper.
Merci. Your Excellency, Speaker, Mr. Speaker of the Senate Kinsella, Mr. Speaker of the Commons, Scheer, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs et les autres commissaires, Mesdames, l'honorable sénateur, Ministre McKay, l'honorable sénateur et député, General Matincha, Lieutenant Général Bouchard, membres des Forces armées canadiennes, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est une journée mémorable. C'est une journée pour célébrer la réussite de la mission de l'OTAN en Libye et la contribution du Canada à cette réussite. C'est une journée pour rendre hommage aux hommes et aux femmes extraordinaires de nos forces armées qui ont joué leur rôle. Et bien sûr, c'est une journée pour honorer le grand Canadien qui les a dirigés. This is, as I said, a day of honor. Of course, when it comes to the Canadian Armed Forces, every day is a day of honor. We must always remember that it is no small thing to put your life on the line day in and day out for your country, something we should always honor. But even by that measure, today is special because we are celebrating a great military success, the success of Canada's participation in Operation Unified Protector and Operation Mobile, respectively, the NATO mission in Libya and Canada's contribution to it. It is a day to pay tribute to the extraordinary men and women of our armed forces who played their part, and yes, it is a day to honour the great Canadian who led them. Ces missions ont été entreprises avec un objectif admirable, sauver la vie de millions de civils libyens innocents. I think we all remember how, in what was hopefully referred to as the Arab Spring spread across North Africa, Libyans began asking for the same reforms as their neighbours. And why would they do otherwise? Having experienced over 4 decades of dictatorship so brutal and psychotic that it had literally taken their country out of the mainstream of human existence. We also remember how the Gaddafi regime responded, unleashing the full fury of the state, police, army, and air force against them, calling all who protested germs, rats, scumbags, and cockroaches, and demanded Libya be cleansed house by house. It was an invitation to genocide. C'est pourquoi le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies, avec l'appui de la Ligue arabe, a demandé à l'OTAN de soumettre la côte libyenne à un blocus. C'est pourquoi une zone d'exclusion aérienne a été établie dans le ciel libyen. And that's why the Government of Canada sent more than 2,000 members of Canada's armed forces to join their NATO allies in support of the most basic human rights of the Libyan people. For more than 6 months, Royal Canadian Navy frigates and aircraft of the Royal Canadian Air Force patrolled the Libyan theatre, carrying a share of operations well out of proportion to the size of the force deployed. Numbers don't tell the whole story, but it bears repeating that Canadian fighter jets flew nearly 1,000 sorties, roughly 10% of all sorties without caveats, against Gaddafi's military. Canadians should also know that the taking of Tripoli by rebel forces was materially assisted by the CF-18 missions that cleared away Gaddafi's remaining mechanized forces. Meanwhile, ships of the Royal Canadian Navy, on top of their role of enforcing the naval blockade, played a vital role in intelligence gathering, targeting, and information operations. And for the first time since the Korean War, a ship of the Royal Canadian Navy, the frigate Charlottetown, came under hostile fire. L'intervention des navires de la Marine royale canadienne et des aéronefs de l'aviation royale canadienne, de concert avec celle de nos alliés de l'OTAN et de la Ligue arabe, a été extrêmement efficace. Parce qu'elle a tenu son but, la population libyenne a été capable de se défaire du carcan du régime de Kadhafi. Et grâce à leur propre sacrifice, les Libyens se sont donné la possibilité de se bâtir un avenir meilleur. This operation also shows, by the way, how considerable and how utterly unpredictable are the demands that may be placed upon the Canadian Armed Forces at any time. It reminds us, as if such a reminder were necessary, how great is the obligation to ensure that the dedicated and courageous people who serve have the equipment and training they need to do their jobs as effectively and as safely as possible. Notre gouvernement ne reste pas indifférent devant la mission accomplie par les hommes et les femmes qui portent notre uniforme. One of this year's high points for me was the opportunity I had in September to visit members of Canada's Armed Forces in Trapani, Sicily, and to personally congratulate them on the crucial part they were playing then in the Libya campaign. I told them their unwavering professionalism reflected the greatest possible credit upon every one of them. And I also told them this, and it deserves to be repeated here on Parliament Hill, that soldier for soldier, sailor for sailor, airman for airman, the Canadian Armed Forces are the best in the world. Plus encore, je suis fier de vous rappeler que l'ensemble de la force de l'OTAN a été commandé avec grande distinction par le lieutenant-général Charles Bouchard, royal canadien. General Bouchard, in a few moments, you will receive from His Excellency the Governor-General a tangible reminder of your country's esteem. But, General, I just want to say on a personal note that your conduct of operations was in the finest traditions of the Canadian military, and I believe the appropriate signal is Bravo Zulu. Par conséquent, et au nom de ceux et celles qui sont réunis ici aujourd'hui, et au nom du gouvernement du Canada, veuillez accepter nos plus chaleureuses félicitations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered now to honor all those here and around the world who have returned from the Libya mission. Our thoughts remain, of course, with those of their comrades who are still serving abroad in dangerous missions, particularly in Afghanistan, where Canada will remain until 2014. Notre mission en Afghanistan est déjà le plus long engagement militaire auquel le Canada a participé. Alors, ne laissez jamais qui que ce soit remettre en question le fait que le Canada est prêt à maintenir le cap pour défendre ce qui est juste. For we believe that in a world where people look for hope and cry out for freedom, those who talk the talk of human rights must from time to time be prepared to likewise walk the walk. History shows us this, that freedom seldom flowers in undisturbed ground. And so, while few nations exceed our own home and native land in its passion for peace, a generous spirit will not blind us to injustice. Still less shall modest stillness and humility make us indifferent towards oppressors. And heaven forbid that we should fail to do that of which we are capable when the path of duty is clear. Our government is not that kind of government, Canada is not that kind of nation, and Canadians are not that kind of people. But at least our job in Libya has been done, and done well. Général, nous vous saluons, ainsi que ceux et celles qui ont servi à vos côtés. God bless all of you, God bless Canada, and welcome home.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Peu importe l'époque, chaque fois qu'ils sont appelés au combat, les Canadiens répondent toujours à l'appel avec un très grand sens du devoir et beaucoup de fierté et de détermination. Il en a été de même pour l'opération Unified Protector. Still, each and every member of Her Majesty's Canadian Forces carried with them thoughts of the day when the battle would be won and they would finally be en route back to Canada, to their homes and their loved ones. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, the brass quintet of the Central Band of the Canadian Forces and Pipe Major Tom Brown, Going Home. An integral part of the Canadian Honours system, the Meritorious Service decorations include a military division and a civil division, with 2 levels each, a medal and a cross. They are awarded by the Governor-General in the name of Her Majesty the Queen to recognize individuals for outstanding professionalism and for bringing honor to Canada. La Croix du Service Méritoire, division militaire, fut créée en 1984 et est décernée pour l'accomplissement d'un acte ou d'une activité militaire témoignant d'un esprit professionnel remarquable ou d'un degré d'excellence exceptionnel qui font grandement honneur aux forces canadiennes ou qui lui procurent de notables avantages. Le secrétaire du gouverneur général et chancelier d'armes, M. Stephen Wallace, lira maintenant la citation.
Votre Excellence, Prime Minister, Ministers, parliamentarians, distinguished guests, Mesdames et Messieurs, to receive the Meritorious Service Cross, récipiendaire de la Croix du Service Méritoire, le lieutenant général Charles Bouchard. De mars à septembre 2011, le lieutenant général Bouchard a été le commandant de la force opérationnelle interarmée multinationale Unified Protector. Dans un environnement politique complexe, il a élaboré un plan de campagne qui a permis d'exercer des pressions sur le régime retranché, tout en synchronisant avec succès les efforts de plusieurs pays. À la tête d'un regroupement compliqué de forces navales et aériennes multinationales, le lieutenant général Bouchard a fait grand honneur au Canada en faisant preuve d'une activité opérationnelle et stratégique hors du commun, aidant ainsi à protéger du danger les citoyens de la Libye durant cette période de conflit civil. From March to September 2011, Lieutenant General Bouchard was the commander of the Combined Joint Task Force Unified Protector. In a complex political environment, he developed a campaign plan that put pressure on the entrenched regime while successfully synchronizing the efforts of multiple nations. Leading an intricate combination of multinational naval and air forces, Lieutenant General Bouchard brought great credit to Canada with his demonstration of exceptional operational and strategic acumen, which helped to protect the citizens of Libya from harm during this period of civil strife. Excellence, le Général Bouchard.
Excellencies, Lieutenant General Charles Bouchard.
Your Excellency, Governor-General Johnson, Monsieur le Premier Ministre Harper,
Prime Minister Harper,
honorable speakers and members of both houses of Parliament, distingués invités,
distinguished guests,
Génériques and members of Canadian Forces, especially those members who were part of Operation Unified Protectors, ladies and gentlemen, Papa, Michel, Mario,
Papa, Michel,
Sylvie,
Mario, Sylvie,
Liane,
Alex,
Catherine.
and Catherine.
Truth be said, sir, I think doing targeting boards in the last 7 months was easier than going through today. Although I'm kind of glad I'm done doing those as well. I am most humbled by the ceremony and this declaration bestowed upon me this morning. Thank you very much, sir. And as we celebrate the completion of a successful NATO mission today, we do also remind ourselves of the 18 expeditionary operations currently ongoing, with 2,342 Canadian Forces personnel still deployed. We wish them success and a safe return home soon. As commander of Operation Unified Protector, I had the privilege of leading an exceptional international team. And while I appreciate the honor bestowed on me today, in front of you, ladies and gentlemen, are the true heroes, the true Canadian heroes. Your Excellency, as Commander-in-Chief, I can report to you that the members of the Canadian Forces performed their duty with gallantry, with courage, and with pride. They are the fighter pilots who went beyond even our own personal recovery to engage deep targets. They are the pilots who conducted what NATO Secretary General referred to as the most precise air campaign in NATO's history. They are the ship's companies of Her Majesty's Canadian ship Charlottetown and Vancouver, and their seeking crew who went into harm's way to keep the port of Misrata, our number one priority, open to ensure the movement of humanitarian aid and the extraction of wounded. They are the crews of the Aurora aircraft who maximize the potential of their weapons system, flying deep inland to monitor chemical weapon storages, find regime targets, and direct fire. They are the crews of our own air refuelers who were part of a team who stayed airborne 24 hours a day for 8 months to keep our air forces flying. They, the Canadians' heroes, are the crews of NATO Airborne Command System, who also flew nonstop for 8 months in support of this mission. And they are indeed the men and women of the Army, the Royal Canadian Navy, and the Royal Canadian Air Force who serve NATO in various headquarters with excellence. I believe, sir, that they are a reflection of Canada and of our own Canadian forces. Mr. Prime Minister, Canada joined 27 other NATO countries and 5 partners to bring an end of violence against innocent civilians in Libya. We have met those objectives. Libya and Libyans are the true victors of this campaign. They have won their war, and every day, as we see it, they are winning their peace. A sustainable infrastructure, developing democratic and security architectures, representative of the entire country, even as we will soon witness, I'm hopeful, in the forthcoming month, a judicial system that will bring fair and equitable justice to all. At the end, sir, Libyans can decide for themselves their own future. This is Libya today, sir. L'OTAN d'aujourd'hui n'est pas l'OTAN d'hier.
NATO today is not
En
NATO
3
of
semaines,
yesterday. In 3 weeks,
les plans de campagne de la Libye ont été complétés. En 6
campaign in
jours,
Libya has been
une équipe
completed. In 6
internationale
days, an
était
international team
formée et un
was
quartier général mis en
created
place.
and a headquarters
Ce
implemented.
quartier général
This headquarters, I must say,
aussi mettre en plus, qui avait été créé sous le
was
leadership
created under
d'un
the
major
leadership
canadien.
of a Canadian major.
18 nations de l'OTAN
18
et 4
NATO
nations
nations
partenaires,
and 4
dont
partner
3
nations,
pays arabes,
including 3 Arab
ont
countries,
pris part dans cette
took
opération.
part in this operation.
This combined and joint operation exercised, in my humble opinion, courageous restraints yet innovative targeting processes, and at times, bold actions to get the job done. Today, NATO is stronger for this, and I believe its future under its new strategic concept is viable, credible, and sustainable. D'un côté plus personnel,
on a more personal note, I want to thank General Natinchak for his confidence in me and for having given me the opportunity to command an international operational force one last time in my career. Canadian forces are an institution that can take a young 17-year-old and give him the opportunity to reach his full potential. It is an unparalleled international institution, and I'm pleased and proud to have been part of it for these many years. But all this is thanks to a family that supports you, a father who loves you, brothers and sisters who also love you, and who have a lot of time.
Liane,
Alex, Catherine, and Sylvie. My love, my friend, I thank you for everything. I love you.
Thank you, fellow warriors of Operation Unified Protector. Thank you, Canada. Sir.
Mesdames et messieurs, nous soulignons aujourd'hui le rôle clé joué par le lieutenant-général Bouchard et, sous sa direction, par tous les Canadiens qui ont servi le pays avec fierté et dévouement au cours de la récente opération. Their story is one of service to country. It is a story of love of country and the values for which it stands. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ottawa Cathedral Choir of Men and Boys, Je fais le vœu pour toi, mon pays. I vow to thee, my country. Messieurs, le ministre de la Défense nationale, l'honorable Peter MacKay. Ladies and gentlemen, the Minister of National Defense, the Honorable Peter MacKay.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, Senators, members of the House of Commons, Mesdames et Messieurs, Reverend clergy,
ladies and gentlemen,
distingués invités,
distinguished guests,
le général,
but above all,
membres des forces canadiennes et leurs familles.
Members of the Canadian Forces and their families, I am pleased to be here to pay tribute
aux hommes et aux femmes
to the
des forces
men and
canadiennes
women of the Canadian Forces
who
made our mission in Libya a clear success.
Les Canadiens sont fiers
Canadians
de vos
are proud of your courageous exploits.
This is a moment in time for which all Canadians can be proud. The stirring music and words spoken, reverberating in this historic hall, adorned with pictures of previous conflict. And as the Governor-General rightly indicated, it was about people, protection, promoting of democratic values, and hope for a better life. And today, as in previous times, Canada stood ready to act. And our men and women in uniform, our finest citizens, to be the enablers for those aspirations, for that hope for freedom. This past spring, on March 21st, I stood in the House of Commons, the chamber next door, to describe how Libyans were under attack from their own government and how Canada, with allies, needed to help. And respond we did, with great success, thanks to the Canadian Forces. We helped our NATO allies and other partner nations defend human rights, confront a violent regime, and most importantly, help the Libyan people rise up when they needed us most. And while every member of the Canadian Forces involved in our mission shares the credit for its success, as well as the members of the families of the Canadian Forces who lead from behind, one particular leader has exemplified the best that our country has to offer. Lieutenant General Charles Bouchard, the effusive praise that you've received from our NATO allies, partner nations, presidents, prime ministers, generals, kings and queens, and all that has been spoken here today, all of which exemplifies the esteem with which world citizens hold you. It was my great honor to be with you in Halifax, where we heard similar words spoken on the weekend, and to officially welcome you home. So to General Bouchard and all of our fine men and women in uniform, I thank you. The Libyan people thank you. Canadians everywhere, thank you, and thank your families. You symbolize what is great about our nation. You symbolize what Canadians contribute to the world. And while we all have our favorite teams, and no speech here, Your Excellency, would be appropriate without a hockey reference. We all have our favorite teams. To Canadians, you are our team, and we thank you. General, those members of the mission, you led this coalition effort to protect innocent civilians with honor, with integrity, hard work, passion and compassion, and an unwavering commitment. These are quintessential Canadian values that define our citizens in this country and make our nation the envy of the world. For your leadership and focus, the Libyan people will be eternally grateful, and Canadians eternally proud. As we all know, Canadian Forces members are still working hard, both at home and abroad, as the Prime Minister said, in Afghanistan and other missions ongoing. And just as we rely on them to do their job with the highest standards and support, they rely on us to provide them with the equipment that they need to get these jobs done. Because we all know that the best way to confront the challenges of the 21st century are to maintain a modern, first-class military. And with the right equipment, leadership, training, our personnel can continue to lead the world, just as General Bouchard and his team of Canadian forces have done in Operation Mobile and Unified Protector. En terminant, Lieutenant Général Bouchard, membre des forces canadiennes,
Bouchard,
et
members of the Canadian forces, and all of those who took part in this ceremony,
laissez-moi vous dire
I want
merci.
to tell you a thank you.
Vous aurez toujours l'appui de notre
You will
gouvernement.
always have the support of our
Félicitations pour
government.
votre succès.
Congratulations on your success.
Congratulations
and welcome.
on a job well done. And again, welcome home safely.
Thank you, Minister. Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. It is now my pleasure to invite the Chief of the Defence Staff, General Walter Nitinchuk, to offer remarks. J'invite maintenant le chef d'état-major de la Défense, le général Walter Nitinchuk, à prendre la parole.
General Walter Nitinchuk, to offer remarks.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, Speakers, Senators, Parliamentarians, leadership of the Canadian Forces, especially Lieutenant General Bouchard and his wonderful wife, Sylvie, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, families and friends. What a great day to be a Canadian. And what a proud day to be wearing this uniform. Just want to say that here we are celebrating the Canadian Forces in this beautiful chamber. And as has been said before, we have men and women around the world who are serving in an extraordinary way because the sun never sets on the Canadian Forces. And on behalf of all of them, I want to express my appreciation, my heartfelt appreciation for this celebration provided by the Government of Canada. A celebration to commemorate the operational achievement of all those men and women. Ces événements reconnaissent le professionnalisme, le courage, le dévouement des hommes et des femmes de force canadienne. We live in a very uncertain world. And this past spring, when the United Nations called upon all nations to help the civilians in Libya, vraiment le Canada a répondu à l'appel en moins de 24
less than 24 hours.
And once the order was given, our sailors, airmen and women, and soldiers, many of whom are in this room right now, launched into action and were ready to commence operation within 2 days. The professionalism, the can-do attitude, but the disciplined approach to put the right force on target to protect civilians at risk, that's what success is all about. And whether you're the great sailor aboard HMCS Charlottetown, as has been mentioned before, it took risks that we have not seen in many decades, or indeed flying one of those great aircraft that we saw in that fantastic fly past just a few moments ago, or the hundreds of folks who supported all those aircraft on the ground, everyone made a contribution, made a real difference for the lives of Libyan people. Et le succès de l'opération mobile est dû en large à la détermination, le leadership vraiment dynamique d'un grand Canadien. C'est vraiment le Lieutenant Général Bouchard. And he could not have done a thing but for the love, the care, and the support of Sylvie, his wife, and his family. And I would just ask him to stand up and be recognized.